Hotelier on the Grill. Stuart J. Raj here, and I'm here with Dave Gottis, who's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Pacif Hospitality Group from West Coast, California, USA. So, good morning, Dave.
Morning, Stuart. How are you?
Very well. We're here at the ITB conference in Singapore. Early start. And you're saying this is your first
trip to Asia.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So we've gone through a few questions already just about the group and the Meritage brand in general, but now this is where we get into you in our Hotelier on the Grill interview. So let's just get straight into it. These are some standard questions, and the whole purpose of it is to find out who you are. Okay, so where did you cut your teeth in the hotel industry?
I cut my teeth with Marriott. Believe it or not, about 32 years ago, I went to college and graduated with the intent to go on to law school. Never made it to law school because I started work at a Marriott in Atlanta, Georgia as a bellman.
Wow.
And I was making too much money, having too much fun, and ironically, they say everything's timing. Marriott was expanding and they needed people. So they tapped me on the shoulder, and before you knew it, I got into sales and marketing with Marriott, but that was back in the early 80s.
Wow.
So Marriott was about 12 hotels in those days, believe it or not. It was a small company with enormous plans of expansion and growth, and now look at it. It's one of the largest hotel companies in the world. But in those days, Mr. Marriott Sr. would come into the hotel. He'd know you by name. That's how small it was. But that's how I cut my teeth, was with, I spent about 10 years with Marriott, left, actually I spent 8 years with him. I left in 1988. Wow. Because I got too big. I was used to the small companies, and that's where I operate best, with the small companies. And they had just grown too much. There was too many levels, and I left in 1988. But that's how I cut my teeth.
Fantastic. And so that leads into the next question. Maybe you've answered it a bit, but you could embellish. What was your first big break?
My first big break was probably I got an opportunity with Marriott to open a new hotel outside of Boston. And I think that's where I really was able to begin applying entrepreneurial skills. Because the other two, I was the first one on site. I was by myself trying to open up or to sell a hotel that was under construction.
Right.
There was no one there to support me until the GM showed up, until a couple other people showed up. But that was probably my big break. I was in Ohio at the time. They said, we want you to go to Boston and open up this hotel.
Right.
And initially I thought, oh my word, how am I going to be able to afford living in Boston? I was living in one of the cheapest places in the country. They wanted me to move to one of the most expensive places in the country, but I made it work, and that was probably my first break.
Wow.
Was opening a brand new hotel pretty much by myself, and it was very successful. So that's when I think I realized this is the business I want to stay in.
And so, which leads on to the next question. Why were you able to make it where you are now, where others have maybe failed?
I've been very fortunate because the people that I have worked with and that I have encountered over my career they've given me the opportunity to make my own mistakes and then learn from them. And I think in our business, it's such a people business. There's no book that says this is how you do it. You got to kind of scrape your knees and stumble a bit. And I've been very fortunate. I've had those kinds of mentors over the years that have given me that freedom to make those choices. And when you win, you analyze it, but when you lose, you really analyze it. And you're gonna, in this business, you're gonna win some. Especially in sales, you some of the times you lose more than you win, and so you.
So that leads into the next question. Tell us about your darkest moment in your career.
The darkest moment was probably I was with a management company called Interstate Hotels, and I had just gotten married. We had just had the birth of our daughter, and I get a call. I'm on the road. I'm in the corporate offices. I'm a regional director of sales and marketing. I'm on the road, And Dave, are you coming back to Pittsburgh? We were based in Pittsburgh at the time. I said, yeah, I'll be back on Friday. It was a Wednesday. And they said, no, can you come back tomorrow? So I'm thinking, I said to my vice president, is there something wrong? He said, no, but I'd like to see you tomorrow. So I get back to Pittsburgh, and what happened was the company was sold, and my job was eliminated. So here I am without, and we had moved from California to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they wanted me to stay in Pittsburgh but work at a property level position, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. So my darkest moment was, oh my word, what are we going to do? We're a new family, I'm unemployed, what am I going to do?
So the next question, how did you get through it?
I was fortunate. I landed on my feet in South Florida, and that's when I joined Starwood. So I was very fortunate.
Getting back to it, so
my darkest moment was it took about 30 days to land on my feet, but I was able to find a great job down on the beach in Miami with Starwood, and things just blossomed from there.
Okay,
it was one of those things where you just got to keep working through it. You just got to keep working through it. You know, I talked to a lot of people. I called a lot of the folks that I had worked with over the years, and before you knew it, there was an opportunity, and you know, you seize that moment. But you know, it's a scary moment. Young family in a place we don't want to be in, because the reason why we came there is no longer. There's no reason to that reason is gone. So we wanted to get out. We landed in South Florida.
Wow. Okay, so you personally then, you were able to pull through that. What drives you?
I have, and people ask me that all the time, I have an internal fear of being fired every single day. So I wake up, I literally, Stuart, I get up at 4 o'clock every morning. I'm in the office by 5:30. And what drives me is this fear of what just happened. I just explained to you that happened in the when did that happen? Late 90s. And it's just that fear that I'm going to get fired. And I've got to work that much harder. Now, I'm not a 24/7 guy by any stretch of the imagination. When I clock out, I clock out. But that's what gets me going in the morning, is that fear that I'm going to lose the job that I have. And I really enjoy what I do. And I've already experienced that, and I don't want to experience that again, because that came out of the blue. Absolutely came out of the blue. Wasn't expecting that at all. We had just moved to Pittsburgh. We had just settled. So that's what drives me, is that fear. I didn't know it at that time, but I learned at that time what that flame was in my in what I like to do and how I operate. It was, of course, I think that's a product of growing up in the 60s too, because that's when I grew up pretty much in the 60s and 70s. But without a doubt, I have that fear of being fired.
Okay. Do you have a mentor? If so, who and why?
Well, I have many mentors. That has changed over the years. I think my very first one was when I was with Marriott. At that time in the hierarchy, it was a regional director of sales and marketing. His name was Ed Lee, and he gave me a chance. I had really no hotel background except being a bellhop, and he said, I want you in sales because you're a good salesperson. So that was my first mentor, and I think my current mentor is our founder and our owner, Tim Bush. He's got such a vision for what he wants Pacifik Hospitality to be, what he wants Meritage Collection to be, and I think that's what drives me, is trying to keep up with that vision. So he's my current mentor, but I think over time it changes. You know, it really changes depending on where you are and what you're doing and what your interests are.
Right.
And you pick up different mentors along the way. But
so from all that experience in the industry, then, tell us of an experience in your career that's made you proud.
You're asking me to be somewhat self-reflective. I guess my proudest moment in the industry was I was at a hotel in Fort Lauderdale, and this was right after the first Gulf War. And things were so bad, we contemplated closing the hotel down as it were a factory during the off-season, just closing it down. I'd never heard of that before. And I remember telling the owners, don't you dare do that. Don't you dare do that. And they looked at me and they said, this is on you, but you better find the business to keep this place open. And we did. There were two of us. We went out and we scoured the market, and we found what it was. It turned out to be timeshare customers who were coming in from all parts of the country to hear the pitch, and they needed a place to stay overnight. And we got the account by accident, but we stumbled into it, and I think that's probably my proudest moment, because the company was ready to shutter the place. The owners were ready to give up on it. My word, even the employees were ready to give up on it. But we in the sales team were not willing to give up on it. And that was back in, well, like I said, it was the first Gulf War, so I think that was 92.
Yeah.
92.
Okay, so what's the best advice that you could give somebody here is either to looking to be a successful hotel GM, or the best advice you could give to somebody to successfully run a hotel?
Listen to your customers. Listen to your associates. And be humble enough to realize you don't know everything. And every day is a learning experience, because it's a people business. And you can just sit in your lobby. The best GMs that I've met, the best operators, are the ones that get out from behind their desk and fluctuate and move around with their customers and with their associates, because obviously the customers are the ones that are very valuable because they keep you in business, but your associates deal with your customers more than you do,
right?
More than your management staff does. And if you're not listening to what they have to say,
right,
shame on you. But that's probably the biggest thing I could recommend is listen to those people.
So on the flip side, what's the worst advice you would give somebody if they're looking to be?
It's become such a, in some areas, it's become such an analytical business. We are just overwhelmed with data, with information, with trends. Don't allow yourself to be consumed by that. There is a place for all that information, but if you become so consumed by it that you're losing touch with your customers and your employees, your associates, that's where you're going to break. You're going to break, because there's only so much information. You got good people around you, delegate it. Let them learn. Let them be the ones that help you with that analysis of data. But I can remember a day where we didn't have all that data, and somehow it just seemed easier. It just seemed
you could still run the business.
You could still run the business because we were out amongst our associates and our customers. And I understand, certainly owners have a return that they need to be sensitive to, and a lot of it is in that data. But don't get overwhelmed with it. Don't let it weigh you down to the point where you're not listening to the people that keep you open. The people that keep you open. Without those customers, without those associates, there is no data.
I think it's analogous to what the NSA is doing, as opposed to old style. Now they've got all this data there, but what do you do with it?
And you can only consume so much. The hotel business is a people business. It's not an accounting business. And so many people, I've seen so many people just fall prey to that. They just get overwhelmed and they get steamrolled by this data.
Right.
So that would be my, I'd tell people, don't lose yourself in that.
And so the final official question, if you weren't in the hotel industry, what's your ideal alternate career?
Well, as I said, I was going to be an attorney, and I probably, if I hadn't stopped at that Marriott hotel back in 1981, I'd probably be an attorney today. I don't see where else the road was leading. But that
very
was
different career.
Very different career. So,
and we have a bonus question, just to take it off on a totally other tangent. What's one app you're using at the moment that's got you at the moment?
I love, believe it or not, I'm an old dog, and I love reading the newspapers. But I don't read the newspapers anymore. I have the app. So I'm from San Diego, so it's the San Diego Union Tribune app that I use quite a bit. Just read the newspaper.
There you have it, listeners. San Diego newspaper app.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave Gerdes. It was fascinating getting
Thanks,
in there. Hotelier on the Grill.
Thank you.
And,
come visit California.
I look forward to actually seeing the properties over there, hopefully sooner than later.
Fantastic.
Thank you.